guys, it's Sloan. It is the first week of August, so as far as I'm concerned, it's fall knitting season. So I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about some projects that I'm working on for fall and some yarns that I'm really excited to use. So what am I working on? As some of you have seen on Instagram, I am working on my sweater for Rhinebeck for the New York Sheep and Wool Festival, which is held at the end of October. So some years I have been really down to the wire working on my Rhinebeck sweater and finished it, weaved in the ends on the plane last year. Trying to be a little further ahead this year working on this summer so that we can get it out and tested in the early fall. So this is the back, which I have been working on, which again I think some of you have seen. And this is in a yarn called Hudson from the Yarn Collective, which looks like this. It's an 85% merino, 15% yak blend that Michelle Wong curated for them. Michelle loves cables even more than I do, so I knew it was going to be a great yarn for this sweater. And I have worked in this yarn in another project that you'll see in a publication this fall, and I really, really loved it and wanted a chance to knit another sweater in it. It's incredibly even, which makes it really nice as a yarn for a sweater where you really want to see the details. And if you're going to put the amount of effort that goes into making one of these big cabled sweaters that has a lot going on, you want to see it, right? You want to be able to see those cables from across the room or across the yarn show. So I wanted to use a yarn that it would stand out in, but also a yarn that would have some really nice drape. And the yak is a little bit less resilient than wool. It has a little less spring. And so it makes the fabric drape really nicely on your body, which is both really flattering and really easy to wear. The other thing that's really nice about yak for the summertime is that it feels a little bit cool to the touch. It's actually the down of the yak, the sort of underbelly hair, that's what comes into yarn. And it has a little bit of like a cottony feel to it almost. It feels a little bit dry and cool, and so it doesn't feel insufferably hot on your hands. I'm not super sensitive to wool in my lap in the middle of the summer because knitting's sort of a year-round sport for me. But I know that some people are, and this has been a yarn that's totally fine to use year-round. We've had a real hot summer here in Northern California, and I haven't really minded. So I've done the back, and I've now done the sweater. Has a densely cabled back, and then the fronts and the sleeves are mostly stockinette and ribs. So I've done the sort of basic math for what I want the sloper measurements of the sweater, the basic measurements of the sweater to be. But I haven't done all of the detailed stitch counts for all sizes, so I'm working on that now. But the back was the most complicated piece to knit and the most complicated piece to grade, where we try to figure out what the stitch counts are for all the sizes. So I wanted to get that graded and knit before I moved on to some other projects. So that one's working. I'm about to go away on a trip, and I'm not taking it with me as my travel knitting, but it'll be the first thing that I turn to when I get back. So done a couple of smaller accessory projects in Cormo worsted, which is a really, really wonderful yarn that Brooke from Sincere Sheep does. Brooke is a longtime friend of mine and a great collaborator. She's based here in Northern California, so I actually get to see her, which is really nice. And she makes a beautiful Cormo yarn, and it's a single source from Wyoming. It's spun in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. And it's just a really wonderfully round, bouncy, alive yarn. It's a 3-ply, it has incredible stitch definition, and it's soft, but it's actually pretty resilient. So Cormo is a cross between Corriedale and Merino. It's a sheep that was pioneered, I believe, in Australia quite some time ago, and has become, I think, sort of a big thing in the yarn world because it has some of that merino softness, but the staple length is a little bit longer, so the fibers don't pill quite as much, which makes it a little bit easier to work with, a little bit harder wearing, and has a little more structure, which can be really nice either in accessories where you want the stitch definition to be really dramatic and sort of 3D, and also in its lighter weights in a sweater that you want to have some drape and structure to it. Which again, that's not the right thing for every garment, but where it is the right thing, it's a really, really wonderful quality. So Brooke makes this Cormo in, I believe, 3 flavors. I think she has a fingering, a sport, and the worsted. So I've worked with the worsted before, and this was my first time working with the sport. This is the cable pattern that you're gonna see around the bottom of the sweater and around the bottom of the sleeves. And then the rest of the body is stockinette, and it has a little ribbed collar. A lot of lightweight sweaters, so this one is a little bit newer for me. Maple Shade, which came out this summer, was one of my lighter weight sweaters. That's sort of a heavy sport. But I really wanted to do a lightweight wool sweater that would be in a hard enough wearing yarn that it would be something I could wear to shows and something I could wear, with backpack straps or, you know, shoulder bag straps and not worrying about it wearing out, and something that would be, you know, a sweater that would last a long time. So I'm super excited to use this yarn. It has unbelievable stitch definition. You won't quite be able to see it from the video, but if I zoomed in, and you'll see some on my Instagram, just unbelievable definition in the stitches here. And this is unblocked, so it will smooth and bloom a little bit as it's blocked, but you can see there's the yoke shaping. It's a little bit of short rows at the back to raise the neck. And I have about another 10 rows before I start the cables, which will take us the last 6 inches of body length to the bottom. It's a big stitch count at the bottom because it's in the round, and it's got a lot of cables on it, but we'll soldier through. So I tend to knit sweaters in pieces in part because I get impatient about long row lengths. So this has been another, I think it's a super relaxing knit right now because I'm just knitting stockinette on the body, but I'm also like, come on, it's got to grow faster. So I totally get that there are pros and cons to all construction types, including one's attention span. So, but this is an amazing yarn to work with. It feels so alive in your hands. It's really, it's bouncy, it's got energy to it, the twist has some motion and movement to it, so it's really just a delightful yarn to work with. And the sweater feels so soft already, and I know it will feel even softer when it's blocked. So it's totally appropriate for next to skin wear, unless you have like a major wool sensitivity. And it's just really delightful yarn. So this is a color called Russet. When I work with Brooke, who makes amazing colors and my favorite of the naturally dyed kind of universe, I'm always like, well, what do you think? I usually have some ideas, but I let her pick. And so this one was an outstanding choice. I love it. I think it'll go, you know, great, great color for fall. Will work great with jeans and with a bunch of other things. So I'm super excited to finish it and wear it. So that's kind of my main day-to-day knit right now, and I'm working on getting that done. I'm leaving for Wyoming to go see my parents in a couple days, and so I'm going to take that with me on the trip, and I'm really hoping that I'll have it done when I get back. So the other thing that I'm working on is in another one of Brooke's yarns that I'm really excited about. A big cake of her Eureka DK. So those of you who are familiar with her Made Here Club, this is the yarn that just came out very recently. This is a all California sourced yarn from Bear Ranch in Eureka, California. And she made a worsted version of this last year that I designed this little hat, which was called Buck Mountain. And the mitts that were in. I really loved working with the yarn. Again, it just had unbelievable like roundness and stitch definition to it. It's a very like bouncy, lively, airy yarn, and it's really just a really unique, cool product. It's 100% Rambouillet. And then she came out with a lighter weight version this year, so I'm really excited to work with this. We are working on another new sweater for this fall. It's been a really exciting new project. I really love trying new yarns, just the exploratory stage of working on that first swatch and sort of figuring out what does it want to be, what does it handle well, and especially from someone who just has such great yarn vision as Brooke does. So I like know that it's going to feel fantastic, so I'm super excited the whole time that I'm working on it. Right now I've got a whole lot of back-end kind of administrative pattern drafting and uploading work to do this week before we head out to Wyoming, so I'm sort of scrambling to get that done and knitting at night, and then hopefully we'll get lots of knitting and hiking time on the trip. So I'm really looking forward to going to see my folks. Had a great weekend in Petaluma this past weekend at the horse show. Also did a little knitting, and it was just really nice to be, you know, out in nature and to see some of the things that have inspired people that I love working with. And it was my birthday on Friday, which is also always cool. I turned 34. And the new issue of Interweave came out. So if you peek through there, you'll see a sweater of mine in there called the Great Island Pullover. And I'll talk a little bit more about that design and how it came to be and what our process was next week. So wish me good knitting luck on my trip and speedy cabling, and hopefully I'll have a close to finished sweater to show you when I get back. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments about either of those yarns. I'll also talk more about them on my blog. And a reminder, you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry at skrosenthal. And on my website at sloanerosenthalknits.com, and you can always email me at hello@sloanerosenthalknits if you have any questions. Have an awesome week, guys.